Hello, I'm Arvinda and I'm working with Starling on a project that's all about resilience. In this video, we're going to be focusing on our achievements. A lot of us brush over or underplay our accomplishments in life, but celebrating what we're proud of can actually be a really good way to help build our resilience. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage you all to take part in a warm-up just to get our ideas flowing. For this, you'll just need a piece of paper and something to write with. Let's make a list of things that we're proud of. Remember to not only consider your academic or career-based successes, but also have a think about your friendships, relationships, behaviour, attitude and interests. Having pride in who you are as a person can come from the simplest and seemingly ordinary actions that we take in everyday life. Once you've finished your list, have a look through and choose one of them, one that you're particularly proud of, to bring forward into today's activity. I've colour-coded this activity with yellow stickers, so if you have a look through your box, see if you can find this paper bag and the pack of clay. We're going to sculpt ourselves a trophy celebrating the achievement that you've chosen. This project will actually take us a couple of days, so for this first stage, all you need is some water, the clay, and the wooden dowel from inside the paper bag. I've identified 6 shapes that make up a classic trophy, so I'm going to talk you through techniques of how to make these out of modelling clay. Now, if you've got a different idea of how you want your trophy to look, that's absolutely great too. You go for it, just ignore this part of the tutorial. To start with, I'm going to take a small lump of clay and warm it up in my hands before moulding it into this base shape. I'm going to keep on spinning the clay to make sure I'm adding the same pressure around the side, and I'm going to use the flat of my hand to make the flat bottom of the trophy. Now that I have my dome, I'm just going to smooth the edges using a wet finger. Since the trophy is going to be relatively tall, we want to be able to support that structure, so that's where the dowel comes in. I'm just going to press it into my base vertically, as close to the centre as possible. Now I'm just squishing my clay up so the dowel is securely in place. Next, we're going to look at this stem shape. I'm just going to take a small piece of clay and squish it into a pancake. I'm then going to wrap this around the dowel. To join the seam, you're just going to want to use your thumb and press along the line, sort of blending the clay over itself. Using water will help to make this join more secure. As you're making your model, keep turning it so you know how it looks from every angle. You don't want any surprises. Now for this piece under the cup, all you're going to do is take a small piece of clay and roll it into a ball before pressing it onto the top of the structure that you've made. For the main part of the trophy, it's best to build it off the stem and leave it to strengthen for a while before we assemble everything together. So I'm going to use the coiling method to make the cup. I'm going to take chunks of clay and roll them out into sausages on the table. The main piece of advice I would give for this stage is to spread your fingers and move side to side as well as forward and backwards when you roll, just to make sure you're applying even pressure. It's quite tempting to roll your sausages as thin as they'll go, but I think it's best to leave them at about this thickness because the thinner your sausages, the weaker your cup will be, and the more likely it'll be to all flop in on itself. Taking one of my sausages, I'm going to start making a spiral, starting from the middle. As you're building the cup, squeeze the clay together to make sure it's all as stuck as possible. As you add more sausages, remember to build your spiral upwards as well as outwards. Once you've reached full height, you can use your hands to apply pressure from the inside and the outside and pinch your pot into a smoother shape. It's also a good idea to apply water at this point to smooth your sides as well as help join it all together. Now because the clay is pretty wet, we just want to set it aside and leave it to harden for a little bit, but not before we make the handles. I'm just using the same rolling technique as before, and then shaping C shapes out of the clay. Now, as I said, the clay is still quite wet, so I don't think these are going to hold their shape quite yet. So I'm just going to lay them on the table in the curve that I want, and we'll come back to them later. It's the following day, and I think these guys have definitely firmed up enough to assemble. If you are going to leave them overnight, then remember to wrap them up in a plastic bag, otherwise they might get too dry to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my cup right on the centre, on the top of the stem. Then I'm going to attach my handles by just wetting the bits that I want to attach and squeezing them on. And now I'm going to allow this to dry fully before I finish the project off tomorrow. It's the following day and it's finally time to finish off this project. If you have a look inside the paper bag, you'll find a paintbrush, some paint, a black box and some gold card. First up, we're going to use the paintbrush and the gold paint to completely cover our trophy. Right, I think I'm going to leave that there. I'm pretty happy with it. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to take a marker pen and the gold piece of card from inside your creative pack, and I'm going to write what the award is for. So I'm going to write World's Best Auntie on mine. Right, so I've written that, and on the back you'll be able to see that there's some double-sided sticky tape. So I'm just going to peel off the backing, and I'm going to stick it to my plinth, making sure that this side of the plinth is on top. Once your trophy's dry, you'll be able to present it on the plinth. And I'm finished! Make sure you think of a really good place to display your trophy so you can always remember what you've got to be proud of. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.